Drink my then go for Facebook, not hi Facebook. It's waiting for you to go live with something. Maybe just bring it in. Yeah, it doesn't seem like YouTube is caught up yet. $14 waiting on Facebook or on YouTube. Get rolling? Yeah. Well, so it's not on the mic survive. Yeah. I've finally worked my way into it. It took me a long time to get there. But
you always had the black. Like I thought you guys jeans like the black.
I do dark, really dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to dark blue.
Yeah. That's fine. We're behind a counter.
Yeah, we'll just start.
Okay.
Yep.
Are the mics on? Okay. All right. Well, let's get it started. Everybody in the room, there's a lot of people here that you can't see right now. Welcome, Facebook. We're working on YouTube right now. You can tell your friends that are waiting on YouTube if you have any way to communicate with them. But to everybody in this room, and there's a lot of us, all the co-hosts, Imada-san, thank you very much. The JSS, a very hearty and heartfelt kanpai to all of you. Kanpai, 3 years.
Kanpai.
3 years.
Happy 3-year anniversary.
Yeah, man. 3 years is pretty amazing. And I do remember the first time that I talked to him on the phone about this, I was in the States at the time. Him is Justin. Sorry, I was pointing at Justin. I know that it's not a two-way camera or a two-way mirror, but I remember him saying, we're going to get these really nerdy people together and we're going to talk about it. It's like, that sounds great. What do you, so.
Yeah, and we did more than talk about it.
Yeah, we did.
But it really started like that, didn't it? Really, just sort of people coming together and just having a chat about something which they really love, they feel passionate about, and then somehow it kind of descended down all these rabbit holes into these deep dives into, you know, various aspects about the world of not just sake, but we've covered a lot of Japanese culture in general, just to show how, you know, interconnected sake is with a lot of elements of Japanese culture. And that's the thing that really kind of pulled me into this world, you know, to begin with. I mean, I'm just thinking back now, just a few months ago, when we did the interview with Sunshine, we did the background.
Oh, right.
I was, you know, I mean, just to see kind of how much of a mirror Bakugo is, you know, for a time when you know, a lot of sake technology and development happened, was really, really interesting to me. And I honestly never would have imagined that. Thinking back to when I first discovered sake.
Yeah, it's how many episodes are we on now?
I think it was, can someone confirm? Justin?
70 something, right? 70 something. Wow. And if there is anyone out there who has listened to every one of them,
yeah,
please put your name forward, because we're going to cheers to you by name tonight. And if you have any questions, let me put that out there. And I'm sure you realize this, just questions are great. We're going to be fielding them all night long. And we're going to be cycling a bunch of the people that you know and love in and out during this entire show. It will be only a few more minutes until somebody more interesting than me gets on here, and then I'll be booted quickly, I promise. And we're going to just be taking questions, reminiscing a little bit, having a few kanpai. So if you're at home enjoying something special, then do comment on what you have in the chat. And we will, we look forward to, well, we're gonna be drinking a few things ourselves as well. So please forgive us for boasting about the beauty that we have in bottles just over here to the left.
Yeah, we have quite a lineup.
We have a decent
We're
lineup.
Sipping on I don't know what you're sipping on. I'm sipping on a Hiyaroshi at the moment.
I'm sipping on whatever Sebastian poured for me, and I trust him. Sorry. I may have just erred there. I'll get my butt kicked off camera later. So 3 years, thank you for joining us. And I think we should start with a very important introduction. If we may not.
We're kind of in charge of the cold open. Right?
I guess we are. We're going to skip the introduction for now. We're going to move on to bringing in a third voice who is looking at me right now. I just gave him the message without having to go over there. And
now that's communication for you.
That was a sixth sense. Sebastian's going to join us right now, and maybe Sebastian can tell us about what he just poured for us.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Well, good evening.
My theme of actually has been moving me and kept my interest over the last 2 years, which have been difficult years for the sake industry, is how much creativity we've seen in product development, and how, despite the difficult economic environment, breweries have invested in their storytelling and in their use of social media to communicate their stories and communicate about their products. So it's only one example that I brought today, because there are lots of them, but I'm actually quite excited to introduce this Alpha 8 sake from Kazenomori. Its main characteristic is that the koji, was made from genmai.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
So there was no polishing involved before the rice was used to make koji. And well, I have had some sake brewed from genmai before, kakemai in particular, but koji rice.
And they still use koji because they could germinate, right? They could do actual germination and make the sake that way, but they choose to use the koji.
And I have to do a bit more research, but from what I understand from Yamamoto-san, who is the owner of Yucho Shuzo, the brewery, is that the rice goes through a process he calls amorphous, where the rice is being heated up like for a malting process, but they don't go as far as germination.
Oh, okay.
But that heating of the rice is enough to start a change in the molecular structure of starch, of proteins, of fats, to allow for koji to grow and then yeast to thrive. And so it's just an example, it's just one story, but what is really interesting is I can tell you that. Why? Because I found the info. So not only are they, no, but no, I mean, it's important. Not only are brewers innovating in the type of new products that they're releasing to the market,
They're giving people
but they're giving the information.
Yeah, yeah.
They're telling us what they're doing.
Cheers to that.
And
Which is really important.
yeah, and it's just picks up my interest. And
Yeah.
and
How does it taste? Like if you compare it to
Well,
sake, which is made with ordinary.
you have to finish. You have to finish your glass first, and I have to tell you. And pour some for you. What?
Color? Very nice.
It's got a
lemon,
yellowy
lemon,
lemon
yeah.
color that you could expect from something like this. But I think we were discussing it with Rebecca offline before, is some of the beery,
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
fragrance,
Almost like hops.
and
maybe, to an extent.
absolutely that.
Yeah, it's quite
that I-
herbaceous.
Mm.
Like it's sort of like a kind of eucalyptus, like a kind of a eucalyptus off the top of it. It's very interesting indeed.
Green.
I've had genmai shoe before, and it didn't smell like this. I have to say. Now, not in I don't want it to sound kind of negative necessarily, but completely different to this.
Well, I had no expectation. It's fun to discover what it is.
It's a grassy and herbaceous.
Yeah,
and-
absolutely.
but then the finish is really
It's expanding.
nutty and like
It continues to expand
Oh, I love that.
in the.
yeah. It does. It just goes on. It's a really long finish and a really, really clear and distinct, almost like an oat kind of flavor. I love that. It's really good. Is there anything like
Genmai shochu.
yeah,
There are
yeah.
genmai shochu. Yeah, and
what kind
there are not a lot of them. This is a bit of a unicorn, right? And genmai
Okay.
shochu is the same.
Yeah.
And they tend to be very grainy, very nutty,
Yeah.
grassy. Absolutely.
Is there a lot of call for them in the industry? Is
I
that stuff
would
like
say that there is not.
no.
No. Basically, the rice shochu is mostly a vacuum distilled product that
Yeah.
is a little tropical, little grainy,
Similar kind of sake notes.
a little bit of dairy.
with the ginjo ones,
Yep,
especially.
Yep,
Yeah.
especially.
But there isn't that much call for my shoe in the industry.
No, not at all. And I like the way brewers are taking risks, releasing new products. I mean, you could have expected that things being what they are,
Yeah.
people get conservative and try to cut costs and so on and so forth. Because I guess
Yeah.
sales, it depends on breweries, of course, but the environment hasn't been that easy. But it's just an example, but there are lots and lots of similar examples of brewers taking risks and releasing products, which they talk about and which are actually prototypes, because the next step is to move on to 100% genmai. This is 100% kojimai, but it's not 100%. So it's 100% genmai. So unpolished rice for koji,
Yeah.
for koji making.
The rice they put in the tank is
but
maybe
in the tank,
polished.
part of the rice is
It's
polished,
polished. Okay.
slightly polished.
Almost
And
like
the
a
next-
yeah, it's almost like a model haku, the kata haku.
Yes,
Kata haku.
absolutely. Yes.
Kata haku, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. We're going backwards, going back in time, going back, returning to the roots
Yeah.
to an extent.
I was about to say another products that the brewery released in the last few months is a product that was brewed in ceramic jars
Ooh.
according to the 16th or was it late 15th century recipe
Right.
that was found and translated into modern terms.
Almost like amphora, is it in the wine word? An amphora.
The clay, the
The clay,
ceramics.
the ceramic, yeah. And I suppose genmai shoe could be good for the industry going forward, because there's going to be a lot of rice which is, needs to be used, right? A lot of rice that the farmers have grown that needs to actually be used, and the more of that they can actually use, that's going to be.
At the same time, if you polish it,
Yeah.
you're using more of it. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's
It's
true.
a double.
That's true.
You're next. Oh, you're next. I did. Yeah. Oh, did I miss it?
Switch out.
We can go in anyway.
We didn't tag.
We haven't tagged anybody. Yeah,
Well-
we definitely need to cycle me out so that we can get some fresh blood in
Want
here.
to keep it fresh. You want to keep fresh faces coming in here, fresh ideas, fresh faith, fresh.
Yep, but I like
experiences.
this where it's going, and I think this maybe can be something we talk about a bit more. Is
Yeah.
what are the revelations recently? So this
Whole
is
episode
absolutely a
on-
revelation.
Yeah, whole episode of
Fantastic.
publishing, perhaps.
Thank you for that. I'm gonna
Thank
move
you.
out of the way.
Thank you, Chris.
See you later, Chris.
That's fun.
Just come here in the middle, John.
I can do that.
This is great.
So what did you bring to us, John? today?
Cousin,
Yeah.
yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did. Actually, Morino Kura.
Okay.
So I can talk about this.
Yeah, I
one.
love Komagura, right? I
Komagura,
love
yes.
this.
I don't know. Morino Kura is the company name.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a brewery I've actually loved for a long, long time. And when the current president took over, he made more of a shift to mature sake and to jukuseishu than the previous generation, and it kind of moved a little bit away from fresher sake. I like both. They have a daiginjo called Otemon, which I'm really, really fond of. But this is really good too. And they mature a lot of sake, and they've been all junmai for probably 10 years, about. And again, the son made that decision, the current president. But this, I believe, is their first foray into kimoto, to my knowledge. And I drink a lot of their sake. I think this is the first time they've made a
I
kimoto
thought they
this year.
did. Yeah, I thought they did kimono. Okay, that's interesting.
No, I could be wrong.
Okay. No, I'm not- I'm
I've just
not
never
sure.
seen it before.
I always remember their two sake. One is like a blue label, one is a red label, and one is for like drinking cool, and one is for drinking warm. It's essentially the same as this junmai, I think.
Is it the maturity that's different between the
It
two of them?
might be.
Yeah, I think
yeah,
that's what
it
it
might
is. I
be.
think
Yeah.
that's what it is. They mature a lot of sake, and it's good. But I'm quite happy with this. It's got a lot of umami, but it's not overpoweringly weighty, is it?
Mm.
And I think that's cool.
Why do you think breweries are going back to kimoto? I mean, I tend to see that as a trend.
Yeah, I do
Only
too.
for part of the production, but it definitely happens.
And it's also not because consumers are demanding it, I think. And this is the answer to the question, because brewers want to make it.
Yeah.
I really think that's what's happening. Brewers like,
Yeah.
I want to try this old traditional kimoto method. It's interesting to me as a brewer. And it's just a good style, but I think it's more driven by what the Kuramoto want to make than consumer driven.
Absolutely. I think a lot of breweries have always wanted to do kimoto. It's just that if they did it, they wouldn't be able to communicate
What it was.
what it was.
Yeah, right.
But now people kind of understand, it's out there. They can use it kind of as a marketing tool as well. The reasons are different. They do vary though. Some breweries are using kimoto for practical reasons. Some are doing it for style reasons.
I remember a visit to a brewery in Kanagawa. I remember I can tell the name later, but I was chatting with the wife of the Kuramoto. And I was telling her, wow, I mean, you've got so many references, so many products. You must be pulling your hair just telling them. And she had said, don't tell me, but my husband, you always want to try new things and saying that way.
Cool. So I introduce my sake. Can you grab my the really colorful one?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's for those of you that don't know, and I'm sure there will be very few of you that don't know, but it's still currently the Hiya Oroshi season. So this is the season where all the lovely fall sake comes out. Sake that's been in slumber throughout the summer, developed a lovely kind of rounded character. And I haven't tasted so many Hiroshi this year, but I did a little event with this brewery, Fuji Shuzo in Hiroshima, in Takehara City in Hiroshima. And they make the brand Yusei. And they had 3 Hiroshi. They brought along 3 Hiroshi, each made with a different rice variety. And it was the Omachi one, right? They had Miyamanishiki and the other one was Gohyaku Mangoku. But it was the Omachi one which caught my attention. And I'm really finding myself falling for these sake where all the flavor kind of comes at the end as opposed to in the mid palate. So it's really simple in the mid palate. There's kind of hardly anything. And then everything is at the end. And there's a lot of umami in there as well. And I think just in general, I don't know, I'm seeing a bit of a movement from, say, Yamana Nishiki, could be controversial, to sort of Omachi. I'm seeing a lot of brewers moving to Omachi, a lot of brewers starting to grow their own Omachi as well. Most brewers just buy their Omachi from Okayama Prefecture, but a lot of brewers are now actually starting to try and grow their own. It is notoriously difficult to grow.
It's still also down like at number 11, I think, in terms of volume.
Oh, yeah.
grown. So when you said that more and more, that made me think that, wow. Although I agree, I see a lot more Omachi out in terms of products.
Yeah.
I don't see the numbers go. It's not going up the list in
No.
terms of amount grown.
It's going to take time though, isn't it?
Yeah,
for
yeah,
that
I
to
guess so.
reflect through. And it might only be a small it might appear to be a big thing, but
Right.
it might actually only be small.
Right. It's more visible to us because of what we drink, but
Yeah. But
an actual number.
I just love this. I think the branding is really fantastic, and the label has got a lovely kind of autumnal color to it. So yeah, there we go.
I think we see it more. Like what I mean by that is these products are highlighting.
Yes,
Or
yes,
they're put forward.
yeah,
A brewer would show, oh, this I've got my Yamada Nishiki from
yeah.
Hyogo, and maybe next or even before that, he would show his omachi product.
What I want to say is that previously I would associate omachi rice with something like a junmai, like something maybe not so highly polished. But I'm seeing a lot of junmai ginjo, a lot of junmai daiginjo being made with omachi, and I'm getting some really surprising results.
Meaning you're liking them?
Yeah, yeah. They still can deliver the same elegance as Yamada Nishiki, but you get more kind of depth in there and some flavors that you might not expect. I'm not suggesting that I think everyone is going to fall in love with omachi, but I certainly can. I'm going that way.
Oh, I've been there a long time. I've had that beautiful affliction for years. Seriously, I've always loved that rice very, very much. To me, it's very, if you look at Yamada Nishiki flavor profile, to me, it's kind of billowing, right?
Yeah.
Whereas omachi seems to be very striated to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, if I were to draw it out,
Yeah.
and that's why I really appeals to me quite a bit.
Yeah.
A lot of omachi sake, I think, have a higher sweetness and acidity, which gives it that striation,
Definitely.
I think.
Yeah.
So, but it's always been extremely appealing to me for.
Don't you use spicy as well? I think I remember.
Yeah,
Tangy,
spicy,
tangy,
herbal,
spicy,
spicy.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. And not all that, like I don't want to paint omachi with one brush, because there are a lot of sake out there that are made with omachi and you can't tell.
Right.
So it's up to the brewer how much of that omachi profile they actually impart into their sake, right? But there you go. Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to talk about tonight, and I might as well start it up now. And what's really interesting is you two were talking a couple of minutes ago, and you say how it's really great that brewers give more and more information.
Yeah.
And actually, what I was going to talk about tonight is I'm seeing a shift amongst consumers away from tech
Right.
and toward what's in the glass. In other words, of course, they're not as focused on the same boy, whether it's a junmai ginjo or honjos or kimoto, all that stuff. They're like, all right, cool, I got that. But what have you done for me lately? What's this going to taste and smell like? And I think it's a positive thing. I think it's a cool thing. So people do need to know, we need to continue to teach what the grades are and how what semi is and isn't, and how important it is or isn't. But I'm actually seeing consumers be more interested in what it's going to actually taste and smell like. And I think that's a good direction. And yeah, we need the information. There's always going to be geeks that dig on it and get really into it, right? But more and more people are going to start to go, okay, what does this taste like? And I think that's a good direction. And I think what's cool about that is slowly, I think, brewers are starting to move away or to shy away from the grades, right? Yeah, right? And they're
I
like,
said it was going to happen. I said it was going to happen, right? In previous shows.
One told me he thinks it'll be gone in 10 years. The whole
Yeah,
keyboard.
I think so.
I was about to ask
10
you.
years.
Yeah, well, that was one person's opinion.
Sure, but
As he said, 10 years it'll be gone, I think. But
Still
the
a
whole
long
point
time.
is, I think we need it. We need it for a while. It guides us. But in the end of the day, it is. It's all about what have you done for me lately? What does this taste and smell
We
like?
had a big debate, right, after
Several
a
drinks.
judging once, after several drinks, and it got quite heated. And I think, I agree with what you were saying at the time, that there needs to be an
Oh, we had
alternative.
it.
We had
Ah.
quite a heated debate about ducting and shochu, I think. And you were saying there needs to be something to replace it, and I completely agree with that. But I think that's the problem, to be honest with you, which is finding that alternative. You can't just take off the brakes and just let it go wild. There are going to be people
Yeah,
out there who
right.
generally get a little bit
Right.
confused.
If you
Right?
pull it away now, it's
Just
like,
pull it
well,
away
where's my
now.
support system?
Yeah.
I need to know this. It's like, even if you're not putting it on a label, I know it's there. Tell me what it is.
Yeah.
People will be doing that. But the other thing is that I think we need something to guide, and I include myself in that number, consumers. People need to know, why does this cost the way it does? What might it possibly taste like? And then people overly focus on it. I remember seeing pictures of big white numbers of the same boy in the bottle, as if that's all you got to pay attention to. It's like, no.
Yeah.
But people are still going to need something to know, why is this 3,000 yen and not 1,500,
Right.
or what can I possibly expect for this? What is it going to taste and smell like? So we need something, and word of mouth might be enough.
We
I
need,
don't
a,
know.
we,
It's
need,
gonna take some
we
time.
need a clear value proposition on the front of the bottle, right? You need to be telling consumers exactly why this is a particular value. And if you take away the polishing ratio, that leaves us with nothing that we can use to actually. It's like when they took away the qubit Sasado, the tax-based.
That's right.
They had to replace it with something. Otherwise, there was no way for the consumers to know why a particular sake was more quality than another one. Is it time to switcheroo? Is it time to switcheroo? I think you're switching with me. So Rebecca, you.
I'll just
I'm gonna
shift
leave
down.
my Hiroshi there.
Hi, I'm coming. Sorry to interrupt so ungraciously, but while you guys have been talking, I've gone through the entire selection of sake for a
Twice.
quality test.
Twice.
So I'm feeling a little bit, so I'm feeling a little bit chaotic. So excuse me. Hi. And hi everyone out there. Thank you so much for supporting us for the last 3 years. Thanks to your amazing support, all of your comments and interaction. We are hopefully making this program more in the shape and giving you more of the context that you're wanting, and it's giving value to you and your sake and shochu and aomori journeys around the world. So that being said, so you're having a very heated discussion.
Was it heated? It wasn't even remotely resembling heated.
I think we all might need to calm down and put some ice in our glass.
Actually, I'll try.
Because I'm actually bringing a shochu to the table, which is not like me. And I might need to have little Chris, who was the shorter Chris, if you're not quite familiar with that, the shorter shochu specialist. Chris, giving me a bit of guidance on the side, because I'm bringing a shochu, which I can tell you about, but I don't know much about, how it's made and everything. So tech support's here, and I'll tell you about it. What I'm bringing to the table, I just thought I'd do something different. Why not? Is a shochu by Tagagi Brewery in Yamagata, who was the maker of a fairly famous brand called Giondai. You're going, wow, you're like kakiguri almost.
Yes.
Excited.
Similar ice there.
Well, we're going to have
Is
a
it possible
little,
to pour?
Whoa.
thanks, Sebastian. I'm
Actually,
making a mess. I'm
thank
looking
you.
like I'm drunk,
I mean,
but I'm
I-
trying not to be.
I love the heart shape of
Yeah,
the,
well,
of the ice.
Okay,
the ice
that's
cube.
all right. We've got a nice Instagram moment
What
there.
percentage is this?
This is 40%.
40, that's cool.
All right. Okay.
Maybe I should have taken some ice after all.
No, 25. Sorry, it's
Oh, cool.
onikabuto is sorry, I'm getting my sake confused. Giondai makes another shochu called onikabuto, which is 10-year aged in white oak barrels. This is a dambikishu. It's a shochu or dambikishu. It's been actually distilled in a lambic. pot.
Alembic pot still.
It's a copper pot. That's what I know. And it's twice distilled, not
Is
fermented.
it?
And it is made from Jinmai Daigen Josaki Kasu.
Away.
Yeah, so it's like that kind of waste not want not kind of thing. So anything
Yeah.
that's left and that was maybe not going to be used would be
High
distilled.
levels. Hmm.
So anyway, here's a
Do you know anything
kanpai.
about the koji?
Oh look, no.
Okay, it doesn't matter because it seems kind of, what's the word? Citric to me, meaning maybe white or black. But I don't know.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. Kanpai.
Long
Kanpai.
words.
Oh, that is so smooth. Oh, that is smooth. Ooh,
You don't need to stick it
charming.
ice. It is nice. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Oh,
lovely.
that's dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah,
It is
that's
dangerous. Good choice of words.
that's
It's
looking for
creamy.
trouble. That one.
It is creamy. That's,
It is
that's
very
creamy.
creamy. Yeah.
Kastori shochu is really an unsung category. There's so little you can extract from the leaves. So it's a very local
But you
phenomenon,
can
but it's made
taste
everywhere.
in the after aroma. You can taste a little bit of sake
So,
leaves,
yeah,
can't
yeah,
you?
can.
I mean, it's going to be a hybrid of various sakekasu all homogenized together. So there'll be residue of various yeasts in there.
Nice.
It's twice
As-
distilled, you said.
Yeah. So as
It is nice.
many of you know, I am the brand ambassador for Giondai overseas. So this is something that is not exported. It's actually something which is only sold to retailers in Japan. It's not exported overseas, but it's just such a great
It's beautiful.
drinking shochu for smoothly enjoying with the meal that I just thought, rather than bringing Giondai, I'd really like to bring something that's a little bit outside the box. My
nailed it.
favorite Giondai is actually their standard, their flagship, which is the Honmaru.
Homaru? Yeah, me too, actually.
And this is what I wanted to actually bring up because, you know, people have been talking about over the last year, what's happened for you and, you know, what are your experiences or things that have come out for you over the last year. And I'm going back into Adoten.
Oh, I never left it, but yeah. good
Well, I
for
mean,
you.
I've always been in Adoten as well. I've never subscribed to that. It's, you know, this pure rice misconception that is often, you know, disseminated. The first sake that I drank in Japan that changed my life was Isojiman's
Tokubetsu Honjozo. That's an
which
outstanding
is still in their lineup, my favorite.
I introduced it to temple students last week.
thing.
It's
Cool.
fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
And that was the sake that blew
Outstanding.
my mind and opened up my brain to the incredible potential of sake.
Mm.
And people always say to me, I don't know much about sake, but I want to drink something that's a little bit fruity, but it's got a dry finish. And I say, oh, well, how about this honjozo? And they're like, no, I don't want anything with added alcohol. I'm like, no, don't, you know, no, stop listening to what you're listening to. Honjozo, if you're looking for a dry aftertaste, the honjozo is the one to start with. And especially as brewers are tending, as we're seeing in competition, to brew to a more of a ginjo style, even in the honjozo brackets. You're getting a little bit of that ginjo, like a beautiful floral aroma
Very
and
often, yeah.
a lighter palette and a nice clean finish. So if you're looking for a dry style, honjozo is your way to go. And the great thing about honjozo is that they're very stable.
Yeah, they
right?
are. Yeah, they're very
They're great for
shelf
storage.
stability. Absolutely. Yeah.
And
Well,
when
that's
you're
what I thought.
overseas
Adoten's
and
always like that. But yeah.
you're not quite sure how your sake is getting to you, you know, in terms of temperature control to the end
Right.
consumer, a honjozo is going to be your thoroughbread.
I would agree. Best
So,
bet that it's going to be
That's my
what the
pro
brewer
tip.
wanted you to taste.
My pro tip is go for a honjozo. And actually, during the pandemic, when a lot of restaurants have been closed, at our company, we've been doing tastings with chefs and sommeliers because the restaurants aren't open and they've got no chance to do any tasting events. There are no events, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Other than online,
Right.
right?
Right.
And that's not the same.
You guys know
So-
what we're talking about?
Yeah. Those are usually free for alls, you know. The online tastings, it's just, you know, you drinking at home, basically.
Right.
So we're kind of creating a tasting environment for chefs and sommeliers to do the entire lineup of a brewery, 3 breweries, the entire lineup,
That's pretty cool.
and to taste it, find out what they like, give comments, give feedback, give suggestions on food pairings. It's really a networking and brainstorming and information knowledge gathering session for professionals when there's no opportunity to learn. And the feedback that we're getting, and everyone was choosing the honjozo and a simple junmai as their favorite. Why?
That's so
Because
cool.
they're food professionals and they're thinking about what's going to go with the food. They're not thinking about the spec or the story behind it. It's really just about, this is going to make our food more delicious. You know,
Yeah,
and
that's
that
cool.
has been for me another thing that's reinforced it. You know, a good honjozo, a good simple, well-made sake.
Yeah,
That's that right.
It's
carried
not
for
permission,
years.
wasn't it?
And unfortunately, it's way too cheap. It's too cheap. It's too cheap, right?
Well, it depends how you look at that. I mean, we need
In
the brewers.
Japan.
Oh, wait a minute. I was just about to agree with you.
Mm.
I mean, the point that I was going to make would support what you were saying. So yeah. We need it to be a bit more expensive so the brewers make a bit more money.
Yeah, and I mean, of course,
Uh,
once it gets to you overseas, it's not that cheap.
No.
I'm sorry. I mean, that's a
That is a drag.
that's something that we can't control here. But I do think that it's sort of domestically, brewers need to be receiving a little bit more,
I would agree with
a
that.
little bit more
100%.
love
Yep.
from the market in
That's
terms of
right.
the incredible craftsmanship they put into
Yep.
those
Yep.
those standard products. So that's me. Hope that livened things
In a
up.
nutshell.
Done. Insane.
We need another ladies on the stage.
Do we?
Cindy,
Not you, Chris. Another lady.
What's that?
Nothing.
Cindy, do you want to join us now?
Because things are moving.
We
Ah,
have
Recycling and
we
recycling.
have an introduction to make, ladies and gentlemen. Please allow me to
Well, I was gonna
introduce
cycle out, but it's a cool.
our SNS, our brains, our communication, our all things tiki. Cindy, so please
thank you.
introduce yourselves to all of our audience.
Yeah, I guess we did a little introduction already in the Q&A session, right? So yeah, I just do things behind the screen. I interact with the audience, and yeah, I've been trying to fix the video. So sorry for everybody if you couldn't see us or hear us. We had a few technical problems, but we should be okay now. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, well, she's the one that makes us look good.
You do look quite good by yourself. You know, I'm just adding a few bits and bobs.
The really important thing that Cindy does for us is that she is creating ways for us to interact with you more smoothly, to hear what your feedback is, and to take that information and put it into our planning and our programming so that we can provide you with what you need and what you're wanting to listen to, because it's great to have this incredible platform, thanks to JSS, to talk about sake, shochu, aomori, our experiences, what's going on in the industry, what's happening outside of Japan. But if we're not listening to you and providing you the content that you're really wanting to hear, we're just, whistling Dixie. Is that an expression, or did I just make that up?
It's
I
an
could have just
expression.
made that up, but it's one that
It's
I'm
an
going to work
expression.
with from now. So
Yeah, it's
Maybe.
very common.
Maybe. Yeah.
is that an expression? I'm not American, so I don't know.
That's what you use it exactly the way it was originally meant to be used, but close enough for government work.
Okay, we'll just let that one slide. By the way, I am onto my 6th glass of sake, so let's just, everything is okay from now on.
Very true. But I'm on my first, so I'm going to do kanpai with you.
Okay, Kampai, what are
because
you drinking?
I'm drinking what Big Chris brought. Where's
okay.
the bottle? I think this is.
Big Chris means the taller one of the two
This
Chris's.
is what I'm still drinking. This was our initial little
Thank you,
kanpai.
Hiroshi. Yeah.
Cheers.
Oh, it's empty. You want more?
I tried to hide that with my fingers.
Which
Now you're
one do you
busting me.
want?
I want to try the Kaiser.
Sorry. I feel bad.
So this is actually the first time that I've met Cindy in person because, COVID, lockdown, restrictions. We've never actually been able to
No.
stand this close to each other in person, and I haven't seen you for who knows
A long
how
time.
long.
I don't know how long.
So
Really.
one of the things I'm kind of curious about is like during this past year, I mean, because I'm work in a sake company, and as I've just told you, we do regular tastings. So I receive sake every day from brewers around the world, around the country as you do. So I have every opportunity every day to drink sake, which I'm enormously grateful for. But I mean, how are you experiencing sake over the last year? I mean, are you just like going to a shop and buying it? How are you accessing sake?
Yeah, I think as some people might know, I travel like pretty much all the time. So I don't have a home, I don't have a fridge. Buying bottles of sake is always difficult when you live in a hotel because you have the tiny fridges. So it's like, how much does actually fit into it? And then with the restrictions on restaurants, and I think with my cautiousness in terms of mingling and going out, I think I've just been a little bit on the safe side. So I buy things as I see them. I found that a lot of breweries were not as strict as I thought they would be, and they would still have their tasting room, so I could go and just sample things.
We're not naming any names, by the way.
No, and there's areas in Japan they're a bit more relaxed about it than others, I must say. So
Maybe.
yeah, I've been good.
Oh.
Allegedly.
Rumors
So they say.
swirl around.
Yeah. So I certainly had chances to try sake, not as much as I might have wanted to, but I think that's hopefully, fingers crossed, all going to change now in the next couple of months. So I'm looking forward to seeing more, drinking
Awesome.
more.
So John, how about you? I mean, you have amazing channels, but what's your sake?
Note to self.
John's
There's
calling
always one.
himself right now.
Get out of the
No,
conversation.
it was actually an alarm saying, John, wake up.
It was an alarm saying, John, shut your phone off. Too little, too late. Let's try that again.
Because you've been traveling and you've been doing all sorts of things. So obviously, I mean, in Japan, you've got easy access to sake, but how about when you go
I bring it
home?
back. I've got,
Right.
I've got this, it's called a wine cruiser, CRUZER. It's a wine suitcase. It fits 8, they got like a 4, 6, 8,
That
and
is
12.
amazing.
It is, it's really cool. It fits 8 bottles. And every time
Mm.
I come and go, or my wife comes and goes, I bring back plenty of sake. So,
Mm.
and I've got access to it in Ohio too, but I usually bring them back enough to stave me off until I come back here.
What are the restrictions with alcohol going into the States?
They're pretty, what they don't want you to do is to not claim it.
Right, so you've just got to declare
You
it.
just got to declare it. If you do that, it's kind of vague. It is, because I'm not sure if it's monetary value or volume. And I asked once, and the guy's answer was, I think you're going to be okay. It's like, that's not a clear answer. But I've never been stopped. I always declare it.
Mm.
And last time my wife came through, she had like, I don't know, 75 bottles. No, I'm kidding. She had like 12 bottles or something like that. And the guy looked, he's like, all right, it would be like $1.72. So just go. So, I mean, they'll run the numbers and they'll calculate, but it's almost nothing if they do charge you, and
Mm.
rarely do that. They're just like, go, get out of here.
I mean,
But
that's
just
one-
declare it.
Yeah,
Just
that's
declare
one
it.
thing I would say is that if you're going to any country from Japan with sake, make sure you do your homework on what the tariffs or the restrictions are, because if you go, for example, to a country like South Korea, you're not going to be, oh, that's fine, just pay $1.20. You're not going to be having that experience. Believe me, I've done it. So make sure you do your homework so that you don't get a shock, but you might be pleasantly surprised that, it's not as high as you expect.
Yeah. The US is not high at all. Just
But
don't.
every market is
claim it.
different. Some have
Yeah,
got free
yeah.
trade agreements, for example, Hong Kong. And so just do your homework before you do that. Yeah. So one thing that, speaking of getting access to sake, one thing that has come to the forefront for me over the last year is an area that I kind of work in every day, which is sake distribution. And what the pandemic really brought to the fore was that breweries don't have their own supply channels, right? And
To them,
out from there,
out from them.
right? So they usually have a contracted relationship with representative agents, a couple of big ones and maybe some regional ones as well, who take responsibility for buying their stock and then distributing it, also doing the promotions and the events and so forth, to the end consumer kind of marketing and so forth. And when the pandemic really hit home was when most of the new seasons, haruzake or unpasteurized sake was being released from the brewery, and all of the main production was coming up right behind, right? So they're in that kind of release schedule of, right, here come the first haruzake, the spring sake, and now then after this gets out, then all the other stuff's coming, the big volume sake is coming after this, and the agents who buy their sake like, sorry, we're canceling our orders because all the restaurants have closed. And the brewers are like, yeah, we've got all this unpasteurized sake that needs to get out of our storeroom so that we can get the other stuff that's
Right,
brewing and
back in.
pressing
Right.
into the storage room. And so, last April, it was just this, breweries going, we can't get our sake out. Consumers are wanting it, but the distributors had full warehouses and the restaurants were closed. So there was
Right.
no way around that,
Right.
other than breweries that already had set up their own e-commerce or had another alternative. And what the last year has really brought to the fore for me is that it's really important for brewers to have the support to develop online strategies, to create their own independent distribution
Yeah, they'll need to do that.
system, so that
I think there's
they-
been a move toward that, though. I think
there
more and more have
has
embraced
indeed.
this.
We've seen it with,
Out of necessity.
for example, recently there's the Japan
Yeah.
sake platform.
Yeah, right. Right, exactly.
the Japan Sake
I was
platform.
gonna say it's similar letters to what they use here.
JSP, which is a collective of brewers and sake brewers and shochu makers who have collectivized,
Right,
and
right.
they're doing events together, and they're doing
Yeah, they're doing a
marketing
good job.
together.
They're doing a good
They're
job.
also doing promotions that will release their sake from the brewer to the end consumer. These kinds of things are, what the industry needs. In a crisis, find solutions.
Right, right. I think a lot of solutions are coming up. Hopefully, we'll be able to follow through on them and develop them to the degree that they need to be developed. But you're right. A lot of brewers are now like, all right, we got to develop this e-commerce thing. We got to develop new routes. We just can't depend on the way it was going before because it can clearly dry up. Yeah. As you pointed out, I think one thing to augment what you said is that it was mostly, it depends on what you make, right? If you make a ton of futsushu, people are still drinking at home. But if you make a ton of junmaishu or ginjo or things like that, mostly restaurants, right? And that's why they got hit so hard. And they didn't have, as you pointed out, alternate routes around that. Didn't have plan B. Who would think that the restaurants in the entire country would shut down? So, but I'm sure whether or not they come up with a really workable solution now, they're moving in that direction. And it's made people think, we need plan B.
My observation is
CDF.
that it's really up to the breweries to take control of this.
Absolutely.
And take
That's what I meant.
responsibility
Absolutely.
for this.
Absolutely.
But of course, they need support and they need the help to be able to,
Yep.
to make that happen. Their specialty is making sake, making it delicious.
Right.
Other people have got the skills to set up the platforms and create the marketing that they need. So one of the things that I've been working on over the last, actually since the pandemic happened, is we changed the sake app that we've created called Sake Nomi. We've changed into an online platform, and it's free for brewers to onboard.
Oh, that's
and,
cool. That's cool.
and
That's very
to
cool. Very supportive.
get their sake out into the community. It is one of those, some of you might know Vivino, the wine app, where you scan a bottle of wine and it gives you the information. So after 5 years, we're finally able to do that. Thanks for your patience. And that's now working. So though the distribution is not international, it's only internal within Japan, you can find a sake that might be sold through Sake Nomi, and it's free for the brewery to onboard and gets to you in a chilled van. So
Cool. That's good.
but we need more people to be using it so that it's worthwhile for the brewery
Right,
to
right,
invest in it. Otherwise, they're going to go with their traditional channels.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's just some feedback that I've got from the market. So, shall we move along and
Sorry.
are we? Who is the next in our limbo line?
I'm getting a little long in the tooth here. I think I've been here longer than anybody yet. So.
Let's move down.
I'll just let you guys shift here.
Thanks, John.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Are we good?
Where are you coming? Come on in.
Don't be shy.
We'll take some folks in here. Let's do this. Let's do this.
Sorry to be a broken record, but my glass is empty.
I got you.
Oh, awesome. Have you got an opener? Cheers.
There we are.
Yeah, okay, I'm gonna, actually,
Liar.
it might be water.
Oops. There we go. That's nice.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you might be familiar with our next guest. It is our boy Friday, Justin, the host with the most. Hey,
Word.
Jess.
Word. Hey, cheers. Hey, come
Nice
by.
to see
Yeah, we made it.
you.
Yeah, we made it. We got things sorted out. Yeah.
Hey, hey, what happened? I seem to have a whole new too.
I know we're mixing it up here.
Yeah.
Keeping you on your toes. We've kept you all on your toes so far this evening. Sorry about that, but we're in business here now. But yeah.
Thanks for putting this
here.
together, Justin.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a throw. I mean, hell, two weeks ago we were still under prohibition, essentially going.
That we were.
Are we going to be able to get anywhere or
Yeah.
do anything? And 2 weeks ago we had Sake Day, so there was
Yeah, so
there was online events
listeners
galore and all these
listeners
things. so
outside of
it's like-
Japan may not realize that in Japan we don't have lockdown like some countries do, but we've had what's been an extended state of emergency where we're basically the only really staunch restriction is that restaurants and we're not allowed to serve alcohol in the main centers for since April.
for an extended period of
Right.
time.
There was a
Very
little bit of
long
time in
period of time.
July when they opened for 2 weeks. And then the numbers spiked again. And so, restaurants
While
would
the
have.
restrictions were mostly for dining restaurants, I also saw how it impacted a lot of sake retailers as well.
Of course,
There were, only a number of times I nearly lost it and had a mental breakdown during this extended period of state of emergency or semi-lockdown, if you will. And one of those times was when I actually walked over to a neighborhood sake retailer that I frequent, and then they were shut down for weeks on end indefinitely because of, I think at that time we had just sort of renewed and re-strengthened our restrictions around early summertime. And I was there all eager because we can't go and dine in at restaurants now. And then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna grab my bag, load up on a few bottles, and there I was, just miserable, empty-handed on the street, and I nearly lost it. So I am ecstatic that things are sort of beginning to resume and beginning to have some sort of normalcy. And I think that deserves a huge toast.
I think we should. This is a kampai to all of the restaurants, all of the chefs, all of the
All
hall
the
staff,
producers,
all of the
distributors,
producers, all
healthcare
of the
workers.
delivery drivers, all the retail staff, basically to the sake community. It's been a rough year, but
They've all been getting
Lots of
thrown
kind of
around
solidarity.
all year.
Thank you
Yeah.
for getting
right?
us through.
yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah. So now we're
So
We're
well, we are here, and what are we drinking, Justin? Show and tell time.
show and tell time. Yeah. I brought Juji Asahi because I love these bottles.
Hang on, you were just in. This is Fukui, right?
It's Shimane.
Shimane. Sorry, same background.
It's kind of
It's on the
along
back
that.
of it,
Yeah. See, that's what the Shimane folks, the Fukui folks, the Totori folks are all gonna
They
raise
hate.
their.
They hate, right?
You lumped it. Oh, you lumped us all together again, right?
Yeah.
In your inbox.
Yeah,
Right?
it's like
So-
saying, oh, Kansai.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's all one
Kansai
thing.
culture, it's all one
I
thing.
thought- I'm not gonna. I always do that with Tochi and Ibaraki. You know, it's like,
You
oh,
heard it
Tochi,
here
you mean
first,
Ibaraki.
folks.
Sorry.
Sometimes I throw in Guma in there.
Right. Everybody's got that little black hole in their map
Yeah.
that they
I
know,
must
but
admit,
they all
because for
melt
me,
together.
I've passed through Fukui, but I have never been to Totori or Shimane, even though they've always been the top of my list.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
getting there.
Yeah.
So bless you.
Yeah.
Bless
Girl
you.
trip?
There we go.
Girls trip. Maybe we should do a sake. If you want us to go on a girls trip to Shimane and Totori, please put something in the
And
comments.
explore
below.
sake.
Double trouble.
And we will do it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
I like it. Yeah.
So again, sorry, interrupted.
No,
So
it's
tell
all
us
good.
about your-
No, it's all good. I was here not so long ago, actually, about a month ago, and I brought it, one, because I was there, and two, because these bottles are just killer.
They are so
Aren't these the best?
great.
Like people are getting into one cups again. This right here, I love it. I absolutely love it. This is like stuff
the
it in your
perfect
bag. You can
size
bust it
too.
out.
Yeah.
And I feel like you could
Like
use that like perfect for even putting in a warm bath
Totally.
as well.
It's
I was
good
just
as
gonna say,
is.
this is so beautiful, but
You could
I
put it
just
in
want to
the
put it in a warm
freezer
bath.
and then, for a little while before you get on the train for your one for the
Yeah.
road on the train. Some of us do that.
Very
Or
nice.
you could even put this in a warm bath and it's like just the perfect size for,
Totally. This is
A little Atsukan for wine.
so.
Yeah.
This is the format for the road, and I'm digging. And yeah, and plus, they make lovely sake. So, and yeah, it was really good. It is really, really good. So I brought that just for that. But yeah, I don't know. It's just been a wild year, I guess. I don't know. We were, like I said, a couple weeks ago, I had no idea if we were even gonna do anything. It was like, is it gonna open up? Is it gonna stop? Should we get together? What are we gonna do? And we've been doing this for 3 years now, which is wild. 3 years ago to the day, actually. I think was the
Really?
first.
Is it?
Yeah, it was the first release. Yeah, somehow that worked out. Yeah, to the day.
And Justin hasn't been to sleep since.
And it shows. No. Yeah, so that worked out. And so yeah, and it just, all the sake day stuff, everybody's crazy busy. There's online, this, that, and all the other things. So it's like, are we gonna be able to get together? Is anything be open? I had no idea. And then it looked like we could do it. And I was like, well, you know what? as a thank you to everyone who's supported us for the last 3 years, let's just celebrate us being together in the same space for the first
Yeah.
time in a long time and doing that. So that's
Absolutely.
what we decided to do. So thanks for taking along for the ride, everybody who's out there watching, listening. This is all for you. This is all for you, but it's kind of for us too.
So
I know.
I'm going to introduce a drinking game. It's when Rebecca says my glass is empty, you all have to take a shot. So actually, darling, what have you brought to the table? Because I think you've brought something from my home area,
I have in fact.
which was Shizuoka.
Oh, that was you. I was wondering.
Yeah.
There it is.
Tell us about this, darling.
So I brought a beautiful bottle of Kayun Junmai Omachi. We just talked about Omachi with Big Chris earlier. So it is on the rise, but they've been doing Omachi for as long as we know. I just thought I went last minute sake shopping as one would, just so that I can bring something today for the show. And I was like in a store after work, just kind of scrambling. Then I was like, so this bottle totally knew exactly what I wanted to bring.
I
It's just a
actually
beautiful,
drank this
beautiful
before I saw the label. Oops. I might have just been breaking into bottles and drinking randomly, but when I drank it, I knew it was Shizuoka. The second sake I tried after
sake.
Isojiman
You were telling
was
me,
was
yeah,
Cayenne,
this was
and
literally the second
yeah.
ever sake you
and
ever
what a lot
tasted.
of people don't know about Cayenne is that the former Toji was a man called Hase-san, and he was regarded as one of the kind of the kings of Noto Toji sake brewing. He is very, very well respected Toji or master brewer, and he was at Cayenne until he died. And there's actually a limited edition sake called, it's Cayenne, it's the Hase. It's like, I don't know how to translate into English, but it's a numbered bottle that they make in limited edition, which is brewed in his style. So they still make a sake in homage to him. So when I drank that, it was kind of like, it tastes like Shizuoka, but it's got a lovely, elegant depth, which is so Cayenne.
So Cayenne.
Yeah.
Like there is something about Shizuoka sake that you just know when you taste it, like that.
It feels like sunshine and fruit and all things good,
And with all of the elegance as well. Like I feel like with this in particular, I feel like when I taste it, I can almost taste the native waters.
Let's stop
of-
talking about
I'm
it. Start
drinking.
drinking it.
You can totally taste the water that the sake was brewed with.
Yeah.
Like that nice. I'm still working
You're still
on your
working on
sake.
it.
You go and help
All right,
yourself.
all right.
It is just a beautiful sake, and also the name Kayun. How would I translate it? It's like
Well, when I think of like this urn,
Goodness.
but when I think of this urn, I think of transport. So it's like sort of like luck being transported.
Right, yeah, it's like luck being brought or like good
Mm.
fortune being brought, and I just thought, what a perfect bottle to crack open.
So
on
some
such a
people in our
beautiful
audience won't know where Shizuoka is. So let's paint a picture. Shizuoka is a prefecture that is almost like the kind of cornucopia of fruit and tea and wasabi in Japan. It's got an abundant shoreline. And it's located at the base of Mount Fuji. So you sort of think of Mount Fuji, and that sort of coastline in front of Mount Fuji is basically Shizuoka and
southwest
Mie
of Tokyo.
Prefecture. And
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
If you want to catch good surf, that's where you go. Just gotta
And
get out
if you
there.
another thing is if you go to a sushi shop, especially in Japan, and they have fresh wasabi that they grate with your sushi, the wasabi will most likely come from Shizuoka Prefecture because again of the very clean water. And also green tea is very famous in Shizuoka Prefecture. But I feel like I'm like blah blah blah. I think we might need some fresh conversation in here. So I think it's time for our sensei,
Oh,
the
Mata
host
sensei.
with the most.
Mata sensei.
Drum roll for the most special person
All right,
in
so-
the audience today.
Are we all
Without
scooting over?
without this gentleman, we would not be here. So we gotta. We
So-
gotta craft. We gotta carve out a little bit of time.
I'm gonna head on out.
You gonna slide this way? I'll slide this way. We'll keep.
Are we all sliding
We'll just
one
slide.
over?
We'll just keep
Oh,
sliding.
you know what?
There we
I
go.
would rather Imada
No,
keep the
no,
center
you
stage.
should go. Girls should be the center.
So good. Look at that. That keep the guy. Very nice. All right. Right.
Am I red? Because I've been drinking
No.
all the time.
No,
That's-
yes,
No. All good. All right.
just rosy.
Just for
Yeah. Welcome to the stage, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much
making
for all
this
you
possible.
do.
Thank you. It was good.
So yeah,
It's so
for,
good to be
right?
here with you
Yeah. So
guys.
for those that don't know, Imada-san has been the gentleman going to bat for us for the last 3 years when we come up with an idea and say, we think we'd like to do this. And everybody else scratches their head. He's the one who steps up to bat for us and helps make it happen. So if it wasn't for this gentleman, we wouldn't have been doing this at all. So thank you, sir. This cheers to you, sir. For
It's all
yeah,
your work.
right?
Thank you.
All right.
Bye. 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 It's easier for me to speak in Japanese, but I will
Right.
try my best.
God. Now tell us about you. I say, well, you've been here, literally, physically here for the most part. Tell us about your year. How does this last
My
year for your
last year?
If you were going to summarize
What
this
did I
last
do?
year
What
in
did I do this past year? There has been no visitors coming here. No foreigners. I hardly ever have a chance to speak English. You know, it's just been really terrible. And you know that all the news are bad about the decrease of the consumption of sake and shochu, and yeah.
how is your sake consumption and shochu consumption changed in the last year with this closed and spending more time at home and all that? How is your
That's a good question.
pattern changed?
I started drinking at home every day.
Whereas you didn't
No,
before.
I usually drank outside.
Yeah.
Outside my house,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I hardly, I don't drink at home so much.
Yeah.
You know, it's a tendency of Japanese people, I think.
In general, it's pretty common, right? Yeah.
Because the consumption of the whole alcohol beverage has decreased for this past years,
Yeah.
which is quite different from the situation outside of Japan.
Yeah.
You know, like Chris says, you know, in Britain, people drink more when they're at home, right?
Pass
in
the
Japan-
time.
Yeah, to pass the
What
time.
else
That-
to
That
do?
doesn't happen. in
to
Japan.
get up in the morning.
To get up in the morning,
And,
to do another Zoom call.
and in Japan, most people drink rather a easy, cheap type of drink like
Yeah, yeah.
beer and mixed drink like
Yeah.
too high. And it was kind of a shock for me to see that that Japanese people don't drink as much sake as
Mm.
at home as they do outside at home.
Yeah.
It was a shock. So
Yeah.
I felt myself the importance of promoting
Yeah.
to the household market.
Yeah.
Once again, it's kind of obvious, but we didn't do that so much
Yeah.
beforehand. We were only promoting to the restaurants, and and the restaurant market has been growing for these past 10 years for sake
Yeah.
industry. So it was good, but at that time we didn't look at the household market so much.
Yeah.
And because of the COVID infection, we came to know that they don't drink as much sake at home.
Yeah.
So it was a shock.
Yeah. How did, for you personally then, how was it? Like, is that something that now, so restaurants are opening again, hopefully they'll be open a little bit later in the near future. Is sake and shochu at home for you? Is that something that you want to continue? Is it something that you feel like have integrated into your life? But I mean, is it, when you get back to it, is it, how do you see that playing out for you
Well,
personally then? Is it,
we can't see the result yet. But
Yeah.
The things will go back to normal.
Yeah.
Gradually, but I don't think everything has back to normal, back to the situation
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
So more people stay at home.
Yeah.
And have to somehow drink at home.
Mm.
Don't drink outside so much.
Yeah. What did you find yourself or for both of you, Marie too, did you find yourself gravitating toward anything specific when you were at home? Was there something that you found just was something
Yes.
nurturing when you were?
I did actually. So before the whole pandemic situation, I drank shochu, but not much in volume. But with the onset of the pandemic, especially around early summertime last year, there was a quite heavy-handed restriction put in place for those of us here in Tokyo. I mean, again, granted, it's probably not comparable to how many other parts of the world had it, but still we were inconvenienced, to say the least. There were sort of restrictions and guidances put in place for, how many times a week you can go grocery shopping. So where I found myself in the midst of all of that is I have a very limited amount of space in my fridge. And if I had to load up on a week's worth of groceries, I didn't have room for sake in the fridge, which is a shame. But so who needs food, right?
Rice and water.
So between all of that, I discovered a new love for shochu because it keeps in room temperature. And for me, I drink it cut with water or a lot of ice. So it's higher proof of alcohol, which meant less weight when you're carrying it home, when you've got 2 other bags full of carrots and rice and meat and whatnot. So actually during the pandemic, I gravitated towards more shochu than I had ever. But at the same time, I felt this professional and personal sort of obligation to be of some help, if at all, to help support the sake community. So when I got my tax returns in the spring, I made sure to go buy all the sake I could with however little money I got back. So
I have a good reason to consume shochu, so I have to. Yeah, it's reasonable.
Yeah.
What you say is very reasonable.
Yeah,
Shochu is
absolutely.
very,
I was like,
healthy, no calorie.
Absolutely.
no calorie. Well, I guess there are calories, but
Well,
less carbs,
less,
right? And it just keeps in room temperature, which was a huge bonus for me. I can just put it in my pantry and less weight to have to carry home.
Yeah.
So that was just one pragmatic shift that I noticed.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well,
How about you
speaking about shochu, I was gravitated by a GI Iki shochu.
Okay.
Ah,
Nice.
Here.
Yeah, beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah, I wasn't too much into Iki GI shochu beforehand, but for this 1 year, I somehow very much, I don't know why, but Iki shochu uses the rice koji instead of using the barley koji they use it in Oita. And if you use the rice koji instead of barley koji, the shochu becomes more milder, smoother, and more easy pairing with foods. I think. Well, for me.
Yeah.
So it's a new finding for me.
Yeah.
And drinking Iki shochu with a warm water, hot water,
Very cool.
it's very good.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Just so
Mr.
you
Pellegrini
can't
is
see,
over here.
Chris Pellegrini
with
is
his
doing
thumbs-
both
with his
thumbs
thumbs
up right
here.
now.
Yeah, you can, Chris, if you want to swing, you've got a bottle, you can swing around here and hop on the mic list, because as long as we're talking about shochu and all that and all that good stuff here. Hop in here. Hop in here. Hop in here. Tell us about what's going on. What do you got? Is
Well,
there a
I
bottle
actually
with
brought 2 bottles.
Amazing.
Okay.
Amazing.
One of them, the first one that I want to introduce is my home sipper, and nobody believes me when I say this, but I buy a bottle of this every week. This is the Kuro Kirishima of Kakushima. It is Jun Kuro, which is like really only sold in Kagoshima Prefecture. It's an amazing, just performs so well on the cost value spectrum.
Yeah.
And great oyuwari. So I drink a bottle of this every week. This is supposed to be my bottle for this week, so take good care of it.
Cool.
And it's a really nice sweet potato shochu, 25% ABV. It clocks in it like in Tokyo, a little over 1,000 yen a bottle. Down in southern Kagoshima, you can buy it for like $8.80.
Why is it still closed?
It's why is
Very
it
good
still closed?
question.
We just-
Very astute observation
Very
from
fair
off
question.
camera
So-
and off mic. There's a
Okay, so this is
it's
So
like you can like
much
feel the
talking.
speech bubble like coming in off camera.
Empty glass, so what do you-
I'm sorry, so we all need to
So
drink,
much
right?
talking, not enough drinking.
That's
So
it.
that's the cue for
Mine
Kevin
is
to
here.
drink, right?
There it is.
Feel free to
How many-
refresh your glasses
How
at
many
this
times?
time.
How many times is Rebecca's
have a little-
glass dry? That's when everybody has to drink. That's the game.
And we all have to take a shot. But seriously, I cannot sing enough praises about the Kirishima series. I
Oh, okay.
have several different colors of Kirishima at home.
Notice
Yeah.
everyone approaches the bar all of a sudden. Suddenly
And
we have a
just
lot of
like you and
fans.
probably Gary, so-
Cindy's coming too.
and even Cindy.
That's what happens is we gradually gravitate into the latter half of the
Sure. Absolutely.
It's organized chaos. All good.
organized
Yeah.
chaos. I say
That's what the
we're.
sake and shochu
I say
does.
if there's anything we're all in need of a little bit. We've had enough chaos as of late. A little bit of organized chaos. We have at this point, so now we can just kind of keep cycling and free for all and cycling. You can, whatever it's on.
Coming in.
Come on in. Oh, that's lovely.
All right, I'll make some room for Rebecca, but
Hello.
not before I grab my shochu.
Yeah,
Thank
so-
you.
That's it, but I'm super glad that you're coming because I'm very curious as to how your shochu habits have changed as of late with everything changing as well. Because anyway, there's something I actually really want to get everybody's feelings on, but I'm curious. What's so this is your weekly. Isn't that nice?
This is my home sipper.
This is killer.
Yeah.
This is
It's
delightful.
this is
very,
killer.
very nice.
It's got what's really interesting is, sorry,
I don't have any.
this is an amateur talking about shochu. The acidity is fantastic. The balance of the umami, the acidity, and the sweetness. That's charming.
This is made down in Shibushi by Tamura Shuzo, and the guy who tends to end up at all of the trade tastings and the consumer facing tastings is an absolute hoot.
Yeah.
Love him to pieces. And every time I tell him, I'm like, I drink your stuff all the time. He doesn't believe me. So this is actually the first physical proof
Evidence.
that I actually always have a bottle of this.
And
I
it's
never am without a
Got
bottle
an
of
amazing
Junkuro.
herbaceous, almost like slight bitterness as well, which creates sort of interest in the finish.
Yeah.
So for me, this is one for food. This is something that I want to have with.
Give me some fatty
creamy
pork.
s- What, the
Okay,
creamy
the creamy
sauce?
too, the cream
A
sauce.
creamy
The,
sauce.
yeah.
Yeah.
So did
And
you?
the-
Was this? So you said this is a bottle a week for you. Is this
It's a bottle a
like
week.
is that new as of this last?
No.
year?
This
I-
is
I-
been-
Or is this
this is a
COVID
multi-
No, that's what
drinking?
I'm very curious about this because this is something I'm like still trying to suss out like
Oh.
exactly what how.
Well, the great thing about the pandemic is that it has concentrated our drinking habits, I suppose. So if you're online in terms of your ability to ship, then you're doing well. And I have the shipments have not stopped. I'm sure it's the same for everybody. It's just every day a bottle shows up. But I go out and get this. This is never sent to me. I go to Seijo Ishii in Tanashi has it for whatever reason.
So Seijo Ishii is kind of like a
Oh.
nice supermarket group in
Yeah.
is it
It's
only
a great-
Tokyo?
I think it's mostly
Seijo Ishii?
Kanto.
There is.
In the Kanto
Yeah, I don't know if they're
area?
outside
I haven't
of
seen one
Kanto,
out in-
actually,
down in
but
Kyushu
it's,
anyway.
it's kind of like a slightly upscale
It is upscale.
small mini grocery.
Which is awesome. But honestly, if you go to Kagoshima, rather than Kurokiri, I know Kurokirishima is everywhere in this country, and you can buy it in the States now too. But in Kagoshima, this is kind of their teiban. Like it's
Is
their
everyone
standard
gonna
there.
understand Kurokiri?
Fair point. Kurokirishima is the best-selling shochu in Japan. It's a sweet potato shochu made with black koji in Kirishima, in Miyako-no-jo, which is just to the northeast of Kirishima in southern
And
Miyazaki
what makes it
Prefecture.
so popular?
I think it's just because of the consistency and how it's a black koji sweet potato shochu that is it's annually approachable. And they make it at such scale.
Well, this
It's
has got
amazing.
a juiciness which makes me think of black koji.
Yeah.
Is this made with black koji?
It is.
Yeah, it's got almost like that
Mm.
very like juicy acidity,
It's almost
which
like a-
is
like-
really
Like a
compelling.
grapiness almost, like
Mm.
in a good
Mm.
way.
And it's
Yeah.
super gentle.
very and it's really really affordable. It's
Yeah.
like what a lot of people drink down in Kagoshima.
this is what's so heartbreaking. It's insanely affordable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vinny, we
Yeah,
have
go-
a
go
question.
ahead.
We have a
Sure,
question from our
Okay.
listeners.
Yeah.
Okay. This question comes from Van Milton. Thank you very much, Van. He asks, why do you guys think shochu is so poorly known, even compared to sake, that's in brackets, when it is so good? It feels like a market waiting to explode. Oh, he's corrected. Sorry, I mean known to an international audience.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
Not
Why?
available yet.
That's a rhetorical question, right? It's like I guess it's we're not communicating to the end consumer in a way that is effectively activating interest and purchases. That's on us. That's not on the end consumer.
No, not at all. Yeah.
But that's not on the brewery. That's on the people who are in the distribution chain, in the education chain, in the restaurant world. But to be honest, I think it's distribution level. The people that take responsibility for representing those brands domestically, internationally,
If you bring them in,
you've got
gotta
to
be
make
able to
sure
tell
that
the
the
story.
end consumer understands the charm and the beauty and what makes that shochu great. The brewer also needs to be part of that, of providing the information and the transparency to everyone, the knowledge and the know-how.
absolutely.
But it's the end consumer isn't being activated, right? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's
They're not.
even you look at sake. I mean, to have even some level of a concentrated effort, it really only goes back probably 30 years or so, maybe, right? Whereas shochu, probably nobody even started paying attention until there was a couple of booms here, a couple of peaks here, which is you're already looking into the early 2000s and whatnot. So by the time anybody picks up on that and goes, oh gosh, maybe we can do something like this, it's already only 10 years ago. So like to have any sort of real concentrated effort where people can get behind it, it's like super recent. So
Mario.
So I was just
So we have another question.
Conversations with the other side, and I was just like drinking it.
We have another question from one of our guests on the program,
okay.
Robert. He's asking us about the future of GIs. What do we think of GIs?
I got a really strong opinion about that.
How long have you got, buddy? I think it's a fantastic marketing idea.
Yeah, I also think that it's very, very good for the image of sake. And they are wise to have started it, but I think it's got limits. And the reason it has limits is because sake is vague. And I think for the GI system, you need something that says, okay, you can only make sake just like this. All right, whatever the product is, be it cheese, be it wine, whatever. You can only make this just like this right here for these reasons.
Yeah, I mean, it's based on the DOC, the AOC, which are not faultless systems, right? There are systemic problems with those systems. Why would we want to replicate something in the sake world, which is a great idea? Fundamentally, it's a great idea. I think we all want to promote regional things, regional resources. But if there are systemic issues with those original structures that it's being replicated on, what are we moving forward? And
the problem with the GI system at the moment is because a lot of it is basing it on either on the rice sometimes, and the problem with that is that rice can be moved about and is bought from
but
or it's not based on
they have
anything.
rules and charge.
It's based on the marketing presentation.
Yeah, I don't even really think it's systemic. I think before that, there's going to be a bigger problem that they're going to run up against very quickly. And most of the time, not 100% of the time, most of the time they say, okay, you do have to use Kensan, like rice from this prefecture. Most of the time. I think, what is there, 20 odd ones right now? I think all of them but two. In any event, I think the problem is the way they do it is when they apply, okay, this is what our sake tastes like fruity, light, and delicate, right? They're going to run out of descriptors really quickly. And the reason is that sake overlaps so much. So, I mean, systemic problems are also there. But they're just gonna, it's like, well, we want to call it this, this, and this. It's like, all right, that was taken like three prefectures ago.
I just sort of feel like it's just going to be a bureaucratic nightmare as well for producers, and they're not going to have any freedom to just produce.
You're right. And I think, but it gets even deeper because once they have it, I mean, not every producer has to make any, right? And with any producer, nobody's making all GI certified products. It's like one or two are, right?
They've got one with some stickers on it.
Yeah, one with some stickers. Let's be a little bit more nice. They have one that conforms to the GI system, maybe two, right? I mean, and so it's not restricting in that way, but I think, is it really worth it to go through all the paperwork and bending over backwards and all that stuff? I think eventually prefectures are going to say, nah, not worth it.
I think some areas which have a particular water source, which is not possible to tap into from anywhere else apart from that very small particular area. I'm thinking of probably somewhere like Numata, for example. I think they have a really strong GI personally, out of all the GIs that I've seen.
Really?
But everyone can make a claim to their water being special.
Yeah,
in
it's-
some
I
way.
don't think-
It's
yeah.
like,
But even
that's
that's,
a
to me,
tricky
that's tricky because in any plot of land, right? You dig well, you get this water, but is it unique to your region? It might be, right? But also, it really doesn't come from your region. It comes from mountains 100 miles
Yeah,
away.
that's
So
true.
on top of that, you dig deeper, you hit another water table, another water table over here. I mean, any plot of land, you got several water tables. So, all right, places like Saijo, Fushimi, Nada, yeah, those are cool. But okay, that's 3. I mean, I just was in a seminar that Koseki Sensei of Yamagata ran, and he divided. He's like, Yamagata alone has 4 major water tables. alone, right? So I mean,
That's so
they're going to
true.
just run out of.
Yeah.
No, but that's precisely why I saw Numata and I was like, okay, they explain it. It's like it's clearly cut off from all the other.
Is that right?
water
Yeah,
tables.
that's cool.
And the conservation effort as well to protect the water
Yeah, that's good.
is also really important, I think, as well. It's not
Um,
just a GI for the sake of having.
But the other side of it is that the GI creates awareness of the region,
So
the
nice. Yeah,
incredible
that's cool.
resources, the techniques that are unique to that area, the pride of the community, the character of the community, the preferred taste of the community in some ways. You know, it brings forward something that we'll get to enjoy, which is the regional variety of Japanese sake, which we know so well, and which is so exciting for us, which is maybe not getting to the end consumer. And so maybe through a GI labeled sake, some of that information can be more clearly expressed.
Just letting people know that it's worth paying attention to. that,
Yeah.
That's
oh,
it.
it's actually worth considering
So
that there is
rather
actually a
than-
place
rather than the
associated with
GI
this.
like confining the brews with all of their production, maybe it just being one representative bottle, which could be like a kind of a token expression of the area, and with some parameters, of course. But you know, ultimately, we know that these GI projects come from a place of wanting to promote,
Yeah,
and
right.
express
Exactly.
Yeah.
the beauty and benefits
To protect
of
the
that.
identity, I think,
yeah,
of
of
the
that
area.
prefix.
Yeah,
And whatever they
that's
come
very
up
positive,
with,
yeah.
whenever they come out, it's probably going to be looked at as outdated 20 years down the road anyway. You look at a lot of the wine ones and stuff now. It made pretty much all these systems, they made sense at the time that they put them together. None of them are inherently bad in and of themselves. They were born at a certain time to fill a certain purpose amongst us within a certain circumstance.
But
And
that's
this-
the
and this is
human
the same, you
condition.
know,
We always
exactly.
want to explain things.
Yeah.
And to understand them. Right.
There's one GI where there's a big question mark, perhaps, and not for us, I don't think, here in Japan, but perhaps outside Japan, and that's the Nihonshu GI. And the effort, the whole point of that was maybe to give sake a bigger identity outside Japan as well. But I don't see
So
many
by
people
this, you're
actually
saying
using
that
this term,
sake
you
that's
know.
produced in Japan as Nihonshu and sake which is produced out
Outside,
of Japan is Japanese style sake.
Yeah, but the problem here is that I don't know if you've seen this. There is one brewery. I'm not going to name the brewery. But there is one brewery that is now selling a sake in America, and they are calling it Nihonshu.
And where is it brewed?
Where is it?
No. What
Let's
country?
guess.
What
It's-
country?
In the
it's
comments,
made
put
it's
your
made in America.
thoughts.
It's made in America, but it's made by a Japanese brewery.
Ma.
So they see it that because it's a Japanese brewery,
Yeah,
they
but
should be able
that's-
to attach the
but they
Nihonshu.
can't,
Okay,
can
thoughts and suggestions in the
They
comment
can't, they're not allowed
section.
to.
But they're doing it
They're
anyway.
doing it anyway.
That'll sort itself out.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
got better things to
By
talk
the way,
about.
there's no prize if you guess correctly, but it's interesting. But you know, for me, actually, one of the things that I think is really exciting about sake that's produced outside of Japan is, you know, I am involved in distribution and -5 degree cold chain. So distribution is something that I kind of geek out on. I want distribution to be more sustainable. I want, you know, I'm talking about reefer containers and talking with shipping companies, but I'm like thinking one day I really want this to be a much less deep carbon footprint. into what I'm currently creating. And so one of the things that sake produced outside of Japan is able to do is to supply sake, you know, we believe in high quality to the end consumer of that particular market with a less heavy carbon footprint. There is, I think, space in the sake world for all of this to exist, but you know, that's just my comments at this stage.
I think, I mean, Japanese sake in Japan is very much part of the Kyoto Ryori, the local food culture. And it's going to be hard to say that sake produced in the UK or in France is part, sake produced in Japan is part of the local French cuisine. But I mean, if you think a little bit, I mean, why not? Why would a French sake not become part of the local?
Well,
food
New Zealand
culture?
was not originally a wine producing country, but it makes some pretty damn good Pinot Noir, and,
Yeah.
you know, so I think that it's also just about a little bit of a brain shift as well. It's a
I mean,
cultural
I
shift.
agree. I mean, and some of the one of them we interviewed together just in a while ago is really crafting his sake thinking about the local food culture. And so why not
France?
in France
And
why not,
in New
why
Zealand
not-
as well.
Why not think or project ourselves in an era, where locally brewed sake is part of the local food culture.
Well, I believe that that is one of the really great resources that sake brewers have, which is knowledge. And that is something that needs to be sort of tapped in terms of that is an incredible resource, which can also be used and exported and compensated for.
Their knowledge can be, you said.
Yeah, in terms of developing knowledge and awareness.
You mean like at the technical brewing skill knowledge? Yeah, it could. But I think that we're off on a bit of a tangent, but it's kind of interesting to me. And if you tell me to stop talking, I will. But
Fire away.
they can give you all this knowledge, but in order to actually implement it, one thing because I spend time with a lot of US brewers is that the one thing they need to be able to get at the net, they need better equipment, right? So in Japan, you can buy a koshikia, a used one or something like that, right? Or a used fune or a used yabuta or something like that, because there's a gazillion of them floating around the market, right? And when you get the instruction book, you can read it, right? But the US, they've got a jury rig just about everything. And so I've seen so many brewers go over there, it's like mushiyamai. In other words, they're not steaming properly, but they can't get a really good
I see what
hoshiki.
you're saying.
So the guy could say, okay, here's how you need to tweak your koshiki, and this is it. But you don't have
It
one of those,
doesn't, it
do you?
doesn't apply.
Yeah,
They can't apply the good knowledge that they really convey.
my idea of knowledge is you give know-how, you give that kind of like, what if I talk about giving knowledge, it's not just like this is how you do A to B. It's like you're going to need this, and this is how we're going to need to develop this part of the industry, and this is missing.
Oh, you're
this part
talking
of the
about distribution and things like that, as opposed to technical.
No, not just distribution. It's also just like that know-how. You've got to have the equipment. How to make that equipment. What do you
Yeah.
need
Well,
to
even-
have?
right?
You
can say,
know?
then even if you don't have the equipment, you can still provide. Here's what it should look like.
Yeah.
And here's the characteristics,
Yeah.
the qualities and stuff. So it has to be. It's a two-pronged approach, right?
It's not just a brewing thing. It's like it's a deep dive,
It's just it hasn't been developed on a real collective
and
level.
it
to
hasn't
where it's
been
accessible and-
compensated properly,
Right.
so that knowledge is
Yeah.
properly, you know,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
I do. And I think there's one more thing that brewers overseas, and some are doing it. Some are, I know, accomplishing this, but you know, they need to stand out, right? They need to get revenue. I mean, the brewers, almost nobody is at a scalable level where they could take this and scale it up 10, 100 times and be a profitable company, seriously profitable, can grow. So they need to get there, so they're trying to get there quickly, and they're like, all right, we know how to do the sake stuff. Let's hop it. Let's add flavors to it. Let's do this. Let's like that. And I think what's really important is you need to be able to brew the same straight junmai 10 times in a row, boring as it might be, right? And make it consistency, reproducible every single time. Then you can start to branch out on all these tangents. If you don't have those fundamentals down, the future is not very bright.
Yeah.
And I don't think too many, some are,
Yeah.
but I don't think enough brewers overseas are focusing on that as an initial goal.
Well, John has just thrown down the gauntlet challenge. Have you accepted the challenge? So actually, I'm going to take that on a tangent because because I do like tastings very regularly in my office, and one of the things that has been the little nugget over the last year is that I feel across the board quality has been really consistent. And I think one of the reasons, John, you can, maybe like back and forth with me on this one, but I feel it's so because production was cut back, I'm feeling as though quality has actually become much more consistent and more stable across a brewery's entire lineup.
They're making very critical choices.
Yeah.
As
What
to
they're
where
gonna
they
produce.
invest their time
Yeah.
and energy.
Because
so everything
also,
that's being produced
what a lot of
has been
people
selected
don't
for
know is
very-
that rice has also become a little bit scarce, and not such a huge harvest volumes. For example, recently the omachi, I read in the most amazing sake industry news, which you must subscribe to,
Where's that? How do you subscribe? Is it? No.
I would say go to John's homepage, and I'm sure that there'll be some kind of pop-up that will suggest something. No,
If you don't subscribe, it's a sin.
Oh, rock and roll. Very cool. I will be borrowing that as of tomorrow.
but so rice
I'll give you credit.
harvest volume is down, and so brewers are having to make kind of economical choices about what they're producing. And what I've noticed is that there's just been this across a brewery's lineup, there's been much more consistency. And what I mean is in terms of stability, in terms of sometimes you
Do you
get,
mean across one product, or do you mean like a thread of
for
consistency that
example,
runs through
a
all the
Megara,
products?
a brand, when you try the entire lineup from that year, there's much more stability in terms of like that particular style is a great example of that style by this brewery. This one is another great example, like just really, really consistent brewing. And I think it's because volume is not, they're not pushing volume. They're not putting the accelerator on the floor like I feel as though it has been for the last couple of years. And it's like production is sort of like taking its foot off the accelerator a little. And I'm personally feeling that.
Yeah. I think it could just be that there's a little bit less out there at the moment, so there's kind of less to compare with. But I see.
Well, I'm drinking
I see that a
pretty,
little bit. Yeah.
my daily struggle is my glass is empty. So, which it is actually.
Every year, I think sake is getting more consistent and more stable, and the quality is going up. If you can believe that, it's already, a super high quality that we struggle to communicate. Let's face it. to
It's
everyone
never
out
been
there.
better, has it?
It's never been better. We've never been, you always use the word renaissance, right? We've never been at a better time for sake, I don't think.
No, I would
Right?
agree.
We probably have to go back in time and ask the Edo people what they thought. But
Chris,
Good
why?
chance they've
Well,
said that every era.
Chris,
throughout Japan.
why are you not
Yeah.
in the picture?
Were you looking for something?
Yeah.
So
So
Mr.
What's
Pellegrini
going
has
Chris, you want to follow me?
has chosen to just
Can
eyeglasses.
we
and
just
service.
put the two of you, just humor me? Can I have the two of you next to each other? Because the audience needs to understand why we say big and little Chris.
I think they saw. Oh,
I think you saw it earlier, but
What's odd is they're all taller than me. That ain't saying much.
it's like
So for once and for all, this is the reason why we have a big Chris and a little Chris.
it's like the
So-
British. Have you seen the British sketch where it's like 5 people lined up and they say something and the next person next to them says something. So it's like, well, I'm taller than him, but I'm such and such as him. We could do a sketch like that, and John will be behind that. Well, I'm kind of smaller than both of them.
That's right. I got nothing to
That
say.
feels really complicated, and I'm on my 10th glass of sake, so I'm not quite sure if I understand the rules.
I have a slight.
So
So I feel
it's all
like
right.
we
are
might be
kind of
kind
winding
of-
down. We're kind of in that.
We're getting to that stage where it's gone from organized chaos just into chaos. So I think it's
So we're
probably
gonna go ahead
about
and,
time to.
and
yeah.
we're gonna hit the
It's time for the kids to bed.
the stop button on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about that time. The bars are closed here in Japan, sadly.
Mm.
So that means I guess it
Yeah,
means it's time for
so
us to go home.
indeed. In
But
solidarity to all the restaurants that have to close
Yeah.
right now, I think it's time for us to.
Trains are
draw
still
the
running,
curtain.
right?
trains are still running. Nothing happened to the trains. They didn't put the kibosh on the train system here. It was only our fine beverages.
But thank you for you fine folk that have made it to this end of whatever has just happened. We really appreciate your support. we really appreciate you tuning in and listening to our comments and our thoughts. And also, if you have not made a comment, please put something in whichever forum you're on. Say hi, make a comment, click like. It really helps us to get an idea of who you are and how to best engage with you, what platforms you prefer to engage with us on.
Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It's something where we should put at the top of the show, but we never do. But please do. Believe it or not, it actually helps as much or more than just about anything. So
Yeah.
leave us a review that will, with 5 stars. If you're
Or
thinking
four and a
4
half,
stars is
because,
reasonably
we
acceptable.
should always be striving to improve.
Where exactly, but 5 is better.
Yeah.
But
Come on,
Justin, I
4,
think we have to-
5, just make it a 5.
We have to manage people's expectation.
No, just
And I was about to say that year 4 will be different. from
Your
the-
4 will
from the-
probably be a little bit different. It's a little too early to announce some things, but there's a lot. There's a lot we want to do and that we talk about doing here on the show. And so we've been thinking about how to realize that. So we have nothing to announce at this time, but
But
yeah.
stay tuned.
Yeah.
Cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Also, if you're drinking along to this live, or if you're, playing after, you're watching it after the fact, upload a photo of what you're drinking
Yeah.
as well. What's happening in the comment section is part of our community. So if you engage with each other, it's all the better for all of us. So anyway, I hope wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whatever your situation, you are happy and well
Healthy
and well fueled with your preference of sake, shochu.
The sake and shochu is apparently stuck on boats in the middle of out to harbor all over the place at the moment. So kindly pester your local distributor, sailor. Let them know, or sailor, no, not the sailor, seller. Don't pester your local
We're a little
local
bit beyond
sailor.
the Edo era. We've actually got cargo ships now.
Right, we have cards. I said
Pestering the
That-
sailors might be more effective.
Yeah. Don't
Sorting
get
out the
me started on
distributors.
reefer containers. I will go for hours.
So, but yeah, no, let them know you appreciate what they're doing and that you're excited for when the sake does come back in. So reach out and buy yourself a bottle or 2 or several, and stay tuned. And thank you so much for everybody who was sticking with us for these few
Champion.
years. For this 90 minutes and for these 3 years, and more to come. So
I look forward to checking in with you all again soon. But again, tell us what you think, right? Give
Yep.
us your feedback. We
Yep.
want to hear from you. We want to hear your voice, and we want to know how we can best, give you content that vibes with you.
Yeah.
So,
that's what we got for year 3.
all right. Well, cheers.
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 Yeah, more to come.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey.
Imada-san and Cindy,
And Cindy,
are
they're over
behind
there
the
snapping
camera.
photos and doing that.
Somebody's got to do the
Much
Thank you,
love,
everyone.
But kampai to you all,
Mm.
and Godspeed to you all. I hope the situation corrects itself so we can all meet again in person one day soon.
Right? Somebody's got to hit.
Oh. All right, so this is one of those.
What a way to wrap it up.
This is the
Somebody's gotta
awkward.
hit
We've
stop on this
said
thing.
goodbye, and now we've got to wait for the end scene.
Frank is just rolling over there. He's like, no.
No, Frank, we love you.
Frank's in agony right now.
We miss you.
He's like, he's just like,
I don't know. Are
You
you
guys are
watching us
useless.
at home?
you guys are so useless.